on the United States' side, assuming that the Americans can kind of get their political ducks in a row at home enough to have this conversation, the first step would be to start with the inner family. So the other Anglo states and the Mexicans, and kind of do a first round NAFTA extension combination security and economic deal. The second phase would be to bring in the countries that are consolidated already, that have good relations with the United States. You would need a formal globalization 2.0 version that fuses economic and security issues into a single governing system. It's not national merger, but it's something a lot more formal than just the Article 5 guarantees of NATO and the adjudication systems of NAFTA. Something where it's all under one roof, and we'd all agree to the ground rules at the same time. So human rights, free enterprise, physical defense, all part of the same association. Kind of like what some supporters of the European Union would like to see the EU. Right now, it's very bilateral and it's very ad hoc. And if you're talking about something that is designed at the end to be an overarching system, it needs to be together. And if you're talking about something that is going to be able to bring the Chinese into it, it has to be potent. You're not going to do that with a simple bilateral deal. The ability for entities outside of China to be able to adjudicate disputes with the Chinese outside of China and have it stick. Right now, under pre-existing systems, we sue the Chinese, including at the WTO. The decision is imposed, and the Chinese just move on. That's not how it works if you're going to have a system that really sticks. You've got to end what has been a relatively exploitive position that the Chinese have taken versus the rest of the world. The system we have had for the last 25 years, the Chinese have been able to take advantage of it, and that's part of the problem. Because they're able to hollow out the economies of a lot of the less developed countries. At the same time, they're able to hollow out the manufacturing base of the more advanced economies. And in exchange, the rest of the world has gotten cheap goods, and that's about it. And that's one of the reasons why we've had this independent Chinese rise. They've basically been able to transfer parts of the global system because of the lack of institutions to the Chinese system, and that is what has undermined everything else. That's what's got to stop. Is by far the Department of Defense. And for them, China is the boogeyman. That is the justifier for their budget. And so when I come in and say, yeah, they're not going to be there in 10 years, you're probably preparing for the wrong foe. They just kind of have a minor freak out because this has become how they go to Congress to justify their existence at the moment. Now, I see lots of things that the United States military is going to be needed for. So I don't take this too seriously. But when I see weapon systems being developed for a very specific conflict that I don't think is ever going to happen, I do question them as to whether that is the best use of their time and the resources. But this is an organization of millions of people, and they need to keep the base story very straightforward for Congress, because Congress does not deal with complexity well. And so China is the way they do that. I would argue that any large institution is going to have at least some elements of that. So yes, and I don't mean to say this to insult the intelligence of the folks at DoD, far from it. They're coming out of a weird conflict where they were fighting brush fire wars and occupation conflicts for 20 years. They're now getting back into the general theme of great power competition. This is a good thing. I just think they're looking at the wrong time frame at the wrong country. That's all. Oh, it's really not that sophisticated. I mean, obviously it wasn't done the best, but it's a landlocked country with poor infrastructure, and the only way we could access it was through other countries that we don't trust, Pakistan and Russia primarily. So with the setting up of institutions there was never going to work. The Afghan government that we tried to create was always going to fall. The question was how soon. Now, I don't think anyone saw it coming in 6.5 minutes, but I don't think anyone thought it was going to last more than a year. And so was it ugly when we pulled out and it just dissolved? Yeah, but some version of that was always going to happen, and we had known that for 20 years. And that's one of the reasons why we were there for 20 years, is no president wanted to be there when the Band-Aid was ripped off, because they knew it was going to be an embarrassment the next day or the next month or the next year. So I actually am one of the handful of people who think that Biden absolutely did the right thing and absolutely the wrong way and just cut the cord, because this is something we were never going to be able to save. Now, could some things tactically have been done differently in the last few days, weeks? Maybe, but it was always going to lead with a collapse and an embarrassment. Now, the rest of the world fell into two general categories. On category number one, you had people who wished the Biden administration specifically, or Americans in general, ill will. And they saw this as American weakness. And that's one of the reasons that Putin felt that he could move, because he thought the Americans would be distracted and incapable for months, if not years. The second category were the allies that actually cooperate strongly with the United States, especially countries like Taiwan or Poland, who are like, oh, thank God, the Americans are finally done with that adventure and they can actually focus on real things now. And that juxtaposition is part of the explanation for why we've seen the rally and some of the mistakes. I think it's both. So let's start with the red line issue. The Russians have made a number of red lines that have been very Obama-esque. They have not reinforced. And so we're doing the bit by bit, upping the ante in terms of volume, in terms of training, in terms of equipment quality, to make sure that we are under that red line. When the failed assault on Kiev, when it became obvious that the Russians were completely incapable of doing that, everyone got really excited in the United States, especially in DOD, until they thought about it. And now they realize that the Russians see this as an existential war for their survival, and they're right. But they're completely incapable of modern warfare. So if we have a direct NATO fight, we know that they will be obliterated, and we will know that nukes are their only recourse. So we have to keep the conflict level below a point where that direct fight can happen. So the Ukrainians have to do this themselves. You have to train the Ukrainians on the equipment. So we started with the javelins, we started with the stingers, things that you can carry on your back and fire with minimal training. And bit by bit, we have increased the sophistication of the weapons as they can prove to absorb it. We now have tens of thousands of Ukrainians training in NATO countries on more advanced stuff.
They're very
we built the pipeline, and it's getting better every day. And we're now, we're now in a situation in parts of eastern Ukraine where the Ukrainians have a numbers, training, and equipment advantage. Now, does that mean the Kharkiv offensive can be repeated the 20 times it's necessary to push the Russians out? I think it's too soon to make that conclusion. But we are seeing Ukrainians now with more and better and more accurate artillery support in some of these duels, where just 2 months ago they were outnumbered 5-1 and they were out artillery 10-1. That's changed. So I think the pace here, even if you're going back to like World War II speeds, this is pretty quick. Oh my God, that's a long conversation, but we'll do our best. Okay, let me start out by saying it wasn't just me. I was probably one of the more optimistic people out there that the Ukrainians would be able to hold out for a few months. Sense of nationality was weak, training was weak, corruption was high, equipment was poor, equipment was outdated. Everything that we thought we knew about Ukraine, they have overperformed, and good for them. On the Russian side, world's second largest military, capable of carrying out multiple military operations, not on American scale, but still on different continents simultaneously. And you can literally walk from Russia to Ukraine. The Russians conquered Ukraine for the first time 300 odd years ago. They never gave it up since, until 1991 when their system collapsed. The idea that this was going to be an easy fight, I didn't think was all that controversial. And in fact, at the time, it wasn't. And they were able to capture the Crimea without firing a single shot just 8 years ago. So that was kind of the baseline understanding.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with another brand new video. In this video, I have bring a content on his famous geopolitical analyzer and writer of ex-CIA officer Zeihan has discussed So guys, if you like to watch this type of video, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every of my video from my channel. In this video, Peter Zeihan has discussed about Russia-Ukraine war and other old relationships. So I hope this video will be useful and enjoyable for you. If this video is really enjoyable or informationful for you, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every video from my channel. I have uploaded already this type of many videos, so I am requesting you to subscribe my channel and check out my videos and watch my YouTube videos, because YouTube is the best platform for watch and learn about anything. So you can consider watching YouTube for gaining knowledge. Thank you for watching until the end. Now I am going to end this video from here. I'll be back with another video next time. Bye for now. Love you guys.